Uh, Megan, such a pleasure being here with you. Of course, we've spent a lot of time over the years together, never on Zoom. So
yeah, what's up?
that's a new
Our first virtual meeting of many.
Yeah, here it is. Where are you writing this whole thing out?
In New York. I did not leave. I held out in the
Nice.
homeland.
Very good. Okay, well, let's start with this. Why don't you give an introduction of yourself and contextually kind of what type of work you do and what you're all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started a company called By Reveal about 5 years ago. It was my graduate thesis in architecture school, and we help brands do pop-ups. So it's all turnkey retail platform. We help brands deploy a ephemeral, short-term pop-up pretty much anywhere consumers are. So parks, public plazas, hotel lobbies, corporate lobbies, event spaces, lifestyle centers, anywhere from 1 day to 1 year in square footages ranging from 36 square feet up to 10,000. So we've been on college campuses, we've done pop-ups in Bryant Park, in Columbus Circle, and really throughout over 20 cities in the US. So it's been a lot of fun, and any brand that's looking to test out a new real estate strategy, test out a new product, new placement, they come to us and they do a short-term pop-up with us, and they're able to capture data in real time and then also be able to have a live engagement with consumers and capture that quantitative data as well as qualitative data for their customers.
To give some more context to that, what type of, can you name or reference a few clients that you work with?
Yeah, so we've worked with brands from A to Z. So food and beverage, we've worked with Cauliflower, which is a cauliflower food company, gluten-free, it's delicious. You may have seen our West Village pop-up where we took over an entire corner block. And then we've also worked with Rachel Zoe, we've worked with Untuck It, we've worked with Jones New York and B New York, Kenneth Cole. So pretty much A to Z. So menswear, women's wear, food and beverage, beauty, worked with Borghese, lingerie with Notori. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What's been going on last 6 weeks?
Well,
what have you been experiencing?
So I started freaking out, I would say like the end of February. So when the petition for South by started gaining traction, so that was probably like 3 plus weeks before anybody else started really thinking this was a thing. And so we had, multiple brands doing activations. We were just at the Super Bowl with Bose, and we were doing another big activation with them at South by. And yeah, it was hard. It was something that came, it was very fast and furious, and it came really quick. And I think, our clients are amazing, and we've all been kind of adjusting and pivoting and figuring out like, okay, how do we slowly start to, one, accept this and figure out how to take care of our team, take care of our employees, take care of, we have employees across the United States, and really help them, give them the resources to make them through it and comfortable through it, because this is a health and safety as well as a well-being issue. And then, now we're kind of in the next phase where we're starting to look at reopening and like, what does that look like? So oftentimes a lot of our clients use us as a way to drive traffic to their existing flagship stores, or help drive traffic to their wholesale department stores, or be able to test and learn so they can make those storefronts more efficient. And now, our small format boutique is actually positioned almost as one of the only ways to actually do contactless, low occupancy retail. So now we're kind of in this position where we were all about the come touch and feel the product. And now where it's like, oh, we're actually going to switch that. Now we're positioned to be able to be this area where we can do contactless retail and go to market in 6 weeks, which is something that, it's all the same variables that we've always been doing, but a very different type of, I guess, sensitivity towards it, and sensitivity to customers, and sensitivity to our team and our installers and our visual merchandisers, and just like the whole cohort of humans that go into this. It's just been like this whole level of additional care, comfort and care.
Yeah. Have you needed to make any pivots in terms of the actual business model, or is this something where you're just rethinking now the marketing and the operations of the existing model?
Yeah, so, one thing that I'm quite proud of, I sit on the associate council for an organization called Delivering Good, which works with retailers and manufacturers and a tremendous amount of apparel and accessory companies. And we collect merchandise and product and donate it to local nonprofits and shelters that need it. And so one thing that we have actually started to realize is that, I kind of do that on my personal time, and, some of our activations, we have like a 1-for-1 donation. That's kind of just been this slow add-on. But right now we've actually figured out that oftentimes we operate as a showroom model. So that kind of showroom model of a consumer coming in and trying something on and saying, oh, this is awesome, great, let me order it, and it drop ships to their home. That is kind of like turned on its head. And now we're like, well, any item that is touched or tried on now needs to go through like a cleaning process. And even if, we do a 1-day pop-up or we do, a 90-day pop-up, that merchandise is going to need to go through a new process. And so we're actually working with Delivering Good to be able to take that merchandise, and once it goes through the cleaning process, to actually get directly donated. Because with the kind of the process that it would initially go through is that merchandise comes back, gets cleaned, and then it goes back to the factory, gets repackaged, and then refolded and re-steamed and all of that, and then goes back out. So we're able to cut down those multiple legs and also, do a tremendous amount of good for some of our segments of society that really need assistance the most. So that is something that has been new, and we've kind of changed our entire inventory fulfillment as well as like our breakdown process to incorporate that level of donations. And we're really proud of that. I mean, all of our clients have just jumped on board with that, and that's been wonderful. So I think that's something it's been something that we've always tried to do, but now it's just at the forefront of like, oh my God, this is immediate. We have to do this. Like, this is so easy. Like, we are doing so much good, and we're able to really like get things in market where people need it most. So that's one aspect that has really quite changed, not only just our business model, but also our logistics and our operational know-how.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, through this series, just, I think you might be the 26th or 27th person in the series that I've afforded the rare opportunity to interview. And, I'll say that a common thread has been that, like, folks are saying like, look, we've been already thinking about some of these initiatives in the past, and we just haven't had that space to focus on them. So, using this time to actually bring some of these, kind of like models that have been kicked around a little bit to fruition. So I'm assuming that's one of those situations, and that's what it sounds like. Now, what are you anticipating? Of course, like, the cleanliness is a factor that you've detailed out. Having single occupancy, that's of course something you've detailed out. But are there any other areas that you're thinking about right now in terms of like consumer patterns and shifts in whether it be on the digital or the physical front, where whether it's related to your business or not, that you're just kind of keeping your pulse on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really is. I mean, we're in a business that develops experiences to create memories to products. So, I mean, we're all about like creating this really cool thing that you want to go in and you want to go engage, and then you have this memory of it and you tell all your friends about it. And like, that is kind of the entire ethos of pop-ups, of ephemeral experiences, of like these temporary activations. And I think now we've really started to be very mindful about where consumer sentiment is. And it's quite interesting now looking at how that's rolling out between our different cities and our different municipalities, and starting to understand like, okay, some of our markets that were, super saturated in, New York, like that may open up significantly later than some of our other markets like Texas or even California. So I think understanding and like our typical process of diagnosing and looking at a location, looking at consumer sentiment, looking at buying patterns, like that is completely turned over and thrown on its head. And so we are being more mindful to so many more variables I never really would have thought would have been in our kind of toolbox for assessing the likelihood and the potential profitability of a particular location.
Yeah, with retail and commercial space, anticipating that it's going to be abundant. So there's going to be a lot of defaults and bankruptcies, and you're already seeing those tremors and announcements coming out from large box retail, and that's going to go all the way down, unfortunately, through small businesses. across America, but the amount of availability is just going to be astronomical. So going into this, I think 20% or 30% of Soho, depending on what you read that day, it was vacant already. Are we seeing, or do you have any projections in terms of like how much vacancy are we going to experience? And if that's the case, like how do you see those types of environments being utilized, and how does that affect your business?
Yeah, so I would love to paint a beautiful picture, but it's scary, right? The vacancies are scary. And I think in any area where you start to see a growth happen so quickly, that it doesn't have other legs to lean on. For example, like when the commercial office space goes down, but you have like great retail, then it leans on the housing, and so you have usually all of those nuts and bolts that kind of go together to like balance things out with a market. And now a lot of that is really taken out. So it's not necessarily even just on retail. I mean, we're looking at commercial office space that is just, it is plummeting. Mixed use space, like all ground floor, like what are our cities going to be like? How safe are our streets going to be when we have vacancies on the ground floor for blocks and blocks? But we have multi-million-dollar, studios above. So like what is that going to look like? And it is really scary. But I think some communities that have much more cohesion than others have a huge advantage. And, New York, like there have been multiple disasters that the city has, rallied together and come through. And so I think the community support and the community cohesion will be huge in this like rehabilitation of what our streetscape looks like and what our communities look like, especially being a community that is so focused on walkability. In other areas, population just may shift into other town squares, etc. But my hope is that a lot of those get repurposed to be more open air, more community driven, and more community focused. We start to see some areas where it's like they have garage doors that are the facade. If that's all, I mean, if you just have city blocks that are all just garage doors put in and they just come up during the summer and it's just a bunch of, park benches thrown in there, like that would be beautiful. That would be amazing. And that's really what our city needs to be able to come back and to be able to have those moments where socially distant occupation can occur.
Yeah, that's wild. And how do you in that vision of a future, like how do you see Buy Reveal kind of sitting into that and making, a value driven offering to your clients?
Yeah, so speed to market is more important than ever now because consumer sentiment is changing so quickly, and regulations are changing so quickly, and businesses are changing so quickly, and liquidity is changing very, very quickly as well. So really being able to provide an option that can deliver an ROI across multiple channels. So like, if a brand needs to develop sales really quickly, we can do that. If a brand needs to just get rid of inventory because they need to go pick up their new inventory at the docks, and those things are happening right now, right today. Those are elements. So initially we have always been, on the top end of the spectrum, focusing on higher end and more, mid-level and high-level luxury brands, but those have been, tailored experiences. But I think now, like some of those brands really need us to do things that they wouldn't have ever asked us to do before, which is, can you please help us dump inventory? Can you please help us make room for like our fall? Because, we've invested X number of months in the design and development, and now we're going to miss it if we can't develop money and get dollars in order to do this. So like those are things that we've never really been in that kind of line of business. And we very much are open to figuring out, and alongside with delivering good and making sure we are doing those activities and supporting the consumer base and the segments of society that can actually benefit from it. So, a brand may have hired us to do a pop-up whether it's Soho or West Village, and now we're positioning those pop-ups for those brands actually in different markets that can help like leverage the product that we have at hand.
Wow. Well, Megan, what type of folks and conversations are you looking to have right now And what is the best way to either follow you or the work that you're doing with ByReveal?
Yes. I mean, we're looking to be a helping hand. So we have a tremendous amount of resources. We have a temporary architectural infrastructure that is nationwide. We can go to town with a team and with infrastructure, in weeks in any city in America. And so we want to be that helping hand, and we want to be that platform that brands can call on and say, hey, this is the situation that we need to solve today. How can we help it? And like, we really want to be allies in this process to make sure we can all get through it. And yeah, Instagram and LinkedIn and all that. But our website is byreveal.com. So BYREVEAL.com. And our Instagram handle is the same as well. It's BY_reveal.
Great. Megan, I've never told you this before, but you are always such a bright, shining moment of my day whenever I see you or bump into you. You're always such great energy, and I really, it's amazing to see that continue through this, and I know that you're going to be continuing to do great work. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Pav. So good to see you, and we'll have a hug soon. I know it.
I know it. I know it.
All right. So good to speak with you.
Cheers.